I was projecting a fun game, Jim. You just have this being a very boring Super Bowl, and it looks
I'm
like, and
terrible.
realistically, oh, you're the worst. How could you? How dare you? You're not coming back again this year. You're cut. This is
Oh,
it. What's going on, folks, and welcome into the super early Super Bowl preview show from Monkey Knife Fight. I'm Connor Rowntree. That's Jim Coventry coming at you one more time this season. And Jim, it's been a fun year and one more football game to break down. Super Bowl. But before we get to that, a couple topics trending in the NFL. Obviously, Tom Brady retiring. And yeah. How about those refs? I mean, I don't think we can really talk about the Super Bowl on a super early preview show without mentioning how those two teams got there and the disparity of reffing in those conference championship games, Jim.
I just hate when we have to talk about the striped shirts as opposed to the players. That's real frustrating. It's not why we watch the games. It's not why we love the NFL. And, ultimately, swallowing the whistles, maybe not the worst idea in the world. Of course, then when you do that, teams like the Patriots for years took advantage of that, knowing, and Seattle did it to a degree too, knowing that if they're not going to blow the whistle, then you just mug everybody every play. It's just rough.
Well, I don't know if you remember that. Well, of course, I know you remember that Rams Saints play. That was literally a drive-by
Yeah.
assault on. They changed the rule that year after. Remember, then it was like, all right, well, you can now challenge PI. They tried it for a year, and just the games started going for 4 hours, and all the NFL partnerships were like, "Hey guys, it's getting a little much here. We love free football, but come on." All right, let's hop into the Super Bowl now. We have Jalen Hurts playing quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. Patrick Mahomes was definitely not as hobbly as I had predicted going into that game. He had looked pretty good, and I just think at this point in my career as a analyst, I will not be picking from what I've seen from NFL reffing leading up to this point. I'm not picking anything against the Chiefs. I'm not making any bets against the Chiefs. So I will be taking more on Patrick Mahomes out of necessity because of the NFL. Thank you, Roger Goodell.
Yeah, no doubt. Mahomes, it's tough because look, he was compromised in that game. I do fault the Cincinnati Bengals. They did not bring their proper defensive game. The receivers they had, they were dropping throughout that game. They were able to get opening as a secondary that's been good all year. And I really was frustrated with the lack of pressure they're able to scheme up. They needed to sell out. They needed to make him move. He was compromised in the second half. I think it was a defensive failure. And look, I'm going to give all the credit to Mahomes, though, because I was a season ticket holder when Michael Jordan was a Bull. I saw every home game he ever played. So I understand greatness has its place. Greatness overcomes a lot. And Mahomes did. He did an amazing thing. I just think that the defensive opponent did not take advantage of what was presented to them.
Yeah, well, now you get a 2 week, basically a bye before the big game, right? Before the big dance. How compromised do you think that ankle will be going in there, Jim? Because when I saw him, I was like, okay, it almost looks like Kansas City's trying to mask it. They had both of his ankles taped up like he was going marching down the streets. Like he could have bounced out there with all the rubber on his ankles.
Yeah, so they definitely geared him up. And we could tell the second half, he definitely was much more compromised in the second half. And he will not be 100%. This is a 4 week plus injury. We know that from history. He's not a running back, so he doesn't use it the same way a running back does. So that gives him a little bit more ability. But let's face it, when we go back to the Cincinnati game, who are their pass rushers? Trey Hendrickson's excellent. Sam Hubbard's really on and off, not great. That was what they had from a pass rush perspective. They could blitz some linebackers on occasion, but here they're going to face a Philadelphia Eagles team. They legitimately have five outstanding pass rushers in their front seven. And by PFF, they're borderline elite. This is a different ballgame. This is a team that can bring pressure from every direction, and they are going to bring pressure. And they have the beauty. Now, Cincinnati did it with coverage. This team, the Eagles, can do it with coverage. Also, Darius Slay, James Bradbury, Avante Maddox, CJ Gardner Johnson. They not only have the pass rushers, but they have the coverage people. The Chiefs receivers will be at a talent disadvantage here. And If Mahomes is not given time or opportunity, this will be a different game. Now, look, betting against him, I got my hat handed to me last time. So I'm very, very frustrated with that. But I'm projecting him 275 passing yards. That puts him less. But I'm not going to tell anybody I'm going to fault you for betting on a legend to overproduce.
Yeah, no, I completely with it. But at the end of the day, Jim, I have to respect you for sticking to your guns and getting that great game script out there and sticking to your projected game script, especially after the performance that we saw from Mahomes last week. And I just want to build off what you were saying about that Philadelphia defense. I don't know if you're aware or the users are aware, they finished just 2 sacks shy of the 85 Bears defense record. Now I know that you have about 4 more games now between 2023 and 1985. However, if you're in the same conversation as the 85 Bears defense, you're doing something right. And yeah, that's a scary feat knowing that Mahomes is on one leg. I do like the analysis. I do like the breakdown. I do think the windows are going to close much faster. And I thought Cincinnati, we said on the show, I thought they would dial up more cornerback blitzes, try to get the secondary involved and get after Mahomes to spread the pocket. And I really hope that the Eagles can take advantage of that and do that, in which case I would land less on Patrick Mahomes. But as you said, right now, after that performance, it's such a touchy spot that it's almost like, you know what, this is one where I'll wait and see what the market does, and then we'll play off the market. Like if the market inflates it and then the 275 is your projected number, bam, hit the less. Or if it keeps creeping down to that 275 mark, maybe you're just like, all right, 280, maybe hit the more. So people, I would just recommend patience on all of these for right now. Monitor the lines, but we're here for it anyway. If you want to get some early Christmas gifts under the tree for, well, I guess Christmas, Jesus, that's 11 months away. But anyway, you know what I'm saying. Jalen Hurts,
Yes.
235 and a half yards. And I don't see how he doesn't get this number against, like, the way I know. I was so frustrated with Jalen Hurts' passing game in the NFC Championship game, but he just didn't need to pass. And I don't think that's going to be the case. And if you really look at it, though, Jalen Hurts one pass where his 30-yard bomb to Smith actually wasn't even caught. So if you take that off the board, he threw for like 100 yards. So, well, it's like, well, why are you taking more? I'm taking more because I don't really have much faith in this Kansas City pass rush to shut down all of the weapons that Philadelphia has. I know I said that against Cincinnati, but Cincinnati only started to take advantage of it in the second half, and they had success doing so. So I'm going to take more on Jalen Hurts.
It's really hard to argue with you, Connor, and you always know where you're going with this stuff. I had a little different lean. Let me explain why. First of all, Hurts has been under this 235 number in 7 of his last 9 games. I know he was compromised in a couple of them. I still think his shoulder's not 100%. If we look back over the season, the games where he had big passing performances, 4 of those 5 games came against teams at that time that were shut down against the run and horrible against the pass. Teams like Minnesota, Tennessee, and they went in knowing, we call this, they are going to pass because these are teams you don't run on. Hurts lit them up. That was a positive. But in most of his other games, when they face an opponent where you can run or pass, they go in very balanced into those games. And Hurts very rarely throws 25 passes. Now, what we know about the Chiefs have better corners than they've had in the past. They have a very well-coached zone, and they send simulated pressures from a lot of directions. They also are not shy if they're needing to play zone. Jalen Hurts on film has had some moments against zone, but he is not good against zone. He is not a good thrower when he's on the move. His numbers this year when he's on the move outside the pocket, they are not good. These are things Steve Spagnuolo will make him do. How does Philadelphia circumvent this? Well, they're going to run the ball. Because, first of all, this is a middling run defense. Now, it's way better than the Kansas City run defenses of the past, but that offensive line is going to maul them. They went from the game in San Francisco facing a front that had 5 elite run defenders and only 1 who was average to facing a run defense with 4 liabilities in the front 7. That offensive line is going to beat the snot out of them. Hurts is going to be a runner. Sanders is going to be a runner. But the downside is Hurts isn't going to pass a lot. Will there be a couple shots? Sure. They'll throw some passes, but this is going to be a very familiar game script to what we've seen all year. I have him for 218 yards here. Now, I also have him going for 75 and a touchdown on the ground. So I know Monkey Knife Fight is a 23 and a half fantasy points. He's over on that or more on that. And I love your call on the more on the yardage. I just don't think in this game scenario he's going to throw a lot. So I have him less.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why we're doing the super early show, right? We're getting the breakdowns out there, and I do think the running lanes are going to be open, and that's why I'm excited to break down the running backs once we get to them. But here's a name that we have to touch on because it's on screen. Travis Kelce at 18 and a half fantasy points is very interesting. His line for receiving yards on Monkey Knife Fight 79 and a half, and then receptions 6.5. I think the 6.5 reception lines is an easy more. I think that's where I'm most comfortable. And the yards, I would say second most, because the 18 and a half is touchdown reliant. And in a big game, he will be the go-to guy in the red zone, but I don't want to be touchdown reliant in these kind of games when you have so many other options to play on Monkey Knife Fight with the reception, with the reception prop, with the receiving yard props. So I will stay away from the fantasy point side. But I do like Travis Kelce to have himself a Super Bowl Sunday.
Oh, I love that. Super Bowl Sunday. And you're right. The receptions are going to be there. We mentioned a moment ago the cornerbacks. So the outside corners are the defensive secondary strength of the Eagles. They have James Bradbury. They have Darius Slay. Very difficult to attack them. We talked about this in the 49ers matchup that you can get them in the middle of the field until they lost their quarterbacks. They already had gone to George Kittle a little bit. It was going to be a big day in the middle of the field. And Kansas City, we know Juju's nicked up. We know Tony's nicked up. It looks like Tony's probably going to play, but they're not likely 100%. And we mentioned earlier, it's a big talent disadvantage. The Eagles force you to throw to the middle. That's where Kelce lives. And I know they're going to pay a lot of attention to him. I know they're going to get bodies on him. I know that. But it's the choice routes where Kelce will make his move forward and then read the leverage and go outside, inside. But as he's doing that, Mahomes is reading the same thing. And it's almost like Cooper Kupp. How when Cooper Kupp can't be stopped, it was the same. Those choice routes are unstoppable when the quarterback and the receiver are on the same note. So I do think, like you said, the 6.5 receptions more is easy because that is going to be the bailout for the offense. They're going to need him. But also, I think it's one of those games with people nicked up. It's going to be one of those games where the superstars are going to have to carry them, and they're going to need Kelce more than ever, and they use him a lot. Now, he hasn't gone over 80 yards in 7 of 18 games, but on the converse, he's gone over that number in more than half. So that's been positive. The Eagles, they haven't given up a lot of yards to tight ends, 47 per game, but they really haven't played many elite tight ends at all. And then when they saw Kittle, they had no quarterbacks. So I do think that they're going to need Kelce. They're going to go to him. So I have him going 9 catches for $110. I have him going, so he'll get the fantasy points on the catches and the yardage, but I'm not going to talk about the touchdowns, Connor, because at the end of the show, I know we're talking about props. I got a crazy one for you.
Oh, you got a fun little touchdown dance coming at us. I love that. And just before we move on here, I love in our notes, our producer Brian, shout out to Brian for this note. All wide receivers on Kansas City are hurt. That is in our rundown. Just like, all right, well, Travis Kelce is him then. Yeah, we're just going to take the more on Travis Kelce. Move on. All right, before we get into that touchdown dance, let's talk about those running backs because, man, from what you're projecting, Miles Sanders, I'm essentially assuming is going to have himself a day, 57 and a half yards on Monkey Knife Fight. Jim, take it away. What's the breakdown on that?
Yeah, so Miles Sanders all year has been very game script dependent. When it was a game where the Eagles needed to control the ground, he got his work. He had his big games. He was very successful. Now, recently, people were worried. They saw a lot of Boston Scott, a lot of Kenny Gainwell. These were 2 games they won in blowout fashion. So Sanders was definitely spotted in those games. Let the backups come in, get more time. So that was a very clear focus. And as we said earlier, when Philadelphia faces a defense that they can run easily on, they bludgeon them. That offensive line can do so many different things. Even if the defense comes out and tries to stop a certain approach, they will switch it mid-game, mid-quarter, and they will find a way. And this defense does not have the horses to stop the ground game. Like we said earlier, They don't want to get in a shootout with Patrick Mahomes. You want to run, control the clock, move the ball, make it tougher to economize the Kansas City possessions. Now, Kansas City hasn't given up a lot of yards this year. Only 10 running backs have gone over 50 yards, but that's misleading. Kansas City's usually leading. They normally game script running backs out. I don't see Philadelphia at any point falling behind to a point where they're not going to be able to run the ball. So this is going to be a big focal point for them. And I project Sanders, only 15 carries, but he had 75 yards on those, and he sails over to 58 and a half yards or 57 and a half yards by more.
Yeah, no, I think I think you're right on that. I mean, I thought that he was going to rip for more. I thought Jalen Hurts was going to rip for more. I was projecting a fun game, Jim. You just have this being a very boring Super Bowl, and it looks like,
terrible.
and realistically, oh, you're the worst. How could you? How dare you? You're not coming back again this year. You're cut. This is it. Now, because of you, it's the last show. No, but in all seriousness, though, it's just the run lanes are going to be there. The way I saw Philadelphia manhandle that San Francisco line and attack their weaknesses and exploit that, they're just so well coached. And I just want to see Jason Kelce like do that little shuffle that he did again in the end zone, because that Selly, it might be my favorite thing that happened this postseason in the NFL. Now, let's jump into our touchdown dance, and then we can get to some game predictions and whatnot. All right, early touchdown dance edition. I mean, yours truly. I'm going to start off with Travis Kelce because, I mean, he's Travis Kelce. Miles Sanders for the Eagles on the ground. And then I guess the third guy is going to be, which team do you think is going to win the game? Do you want to mix in Pacheco? Do you want to mix in Jerick McKinnon maybe as a goal line option for Mahomes? Or do you think that the Eagles are going to get it done and you think A.J. Brown might get a shot over the top? That's where it is for me. And right now I'm leaning that the Eagles are going to get the win here. So I'm going to lean to the A.J. Brown winning a one-on-one matchup on the outside and Jalen Hurts finding his guy.
We have the exact same touchdown dance, so it looks like it might be really popular here for the people who are listening to us. Get that locked in. Yes, cannot agree with you more.
Maybe get that one locked in while it's hot cooking and fresh on the mind, because that one I'm not changing. That I am setting in stone, because I do have Philadelphia winning this game. I won't bet it, as I preface, because of the NFL. All right, Jim. Well, we're dancing. We're in tune with our little Irish jig here from the touchdown dance. Let's talk about the big dance now. What do you have? Who do you have winning? What and why? Philadelphia or the Kansas City Chiefs?
I know I've been accused on this show of being very boring, predicting a boring game. And yes, to a degree. But you know what? When you run the ball like the Eagles run, that's not boring. You're beating the snot out of people. And I know you got to like that kind of Rowntree.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to shorten the game. They're going to have some success. Kansas City's going to have the ability to move the ball, but lessen possessions. That pass rush with 5 legit outstanding pass rushers with those coverage players. This is no defense like they've seen all year. Mahomes is not 100%. He's going to be very good. But ultimately, the Eagles on both sides of the ball, they're going to be smart enough to not put it on Jalen Hurts' shoulder, and they're going to put it on Miles Sanders' legs and the defense. And I do have them winning this 24-20. So yes, laying the 1.5, definitely going with the under. But if you really want to mitigate risk and you're nervous about it, the 6-point teaser is nice. You can get -120 Philadelphia +4.5 and under 56. So that 2-leg teaser, that is for the risk averse. I do like the Eagles without it, but it's a real nice option.
Yeah, I'm going to be taking the Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly. I think they're built to win this game particularly. And I think they have the shots over the top, as I said, and I think they have it in the run game, as you broke down and alluded to very nicely. The over-under, Jim, is at 50.5. Obviously, you said you on that teaser boost at the 56 and take the under. So where do you feel at the 50.5? Do you think there'll be that one less touchdown so people can be comfortable at a number of around 48? Where would you play that under 2?
Yeah, I'm projecting 24-20 here. So I'm going to go 44 points on this one. So I'm going to go well under it. And I do have a real small bet where you can actually pick the final score. It never hits million to one, but I'm betting that it's like $10 becomes 710 in the long shot that the total hits.
Oh, you got to. It's the Super Bowl, right? It's the one last dance, like
Yes.
national anthem laying. It's degenerate. It's a degenerate Christmas, legitimately. Like I'm gonna national anthems, coin toss. How many outfits is Rihanna going to wear? All those whack props. I'll be popping them out on Twitter. And folks, just before we get out of here, I'm gonna actually be heading down to Arizona. I know we're gonna try to get some content for you guys from Monkey Knife Fight, whether it's man on the street content, and definitely mix it up, talk to some fans, and try to get you guys some picks and some props from the desert, from the big dance itself. Now, Jim, obviously this has been a great year. One last time, let the people know where they can find all your amazing content.
And Connor, I'm going to do that, but I want to hit you down for a couple quick props before we move out. So real quick, I like Travis Kelce to score 2 touchdowns at plus 445. You want to get real nutty? To score 3, it's like plus 2,200. Put $1 or 2 on it. Don't put, but on the 2 touchdowns, he has scored in his last 5 playoff games. He scored in 8 of his last 11 playoff games. And in 3 of those, he scored multiple touchdowns that are going to need him. And one more I like. Over 2.5 players to attempt the pass is plus 165, whether that's the punter, whether it's a trick play. Love those. And just a silly bets for $1, a non-quarterback to throw a touchdown pass at plus 230, and an offensive lineman to score a touchdown at plus 360. Are there any props that you like before I tell people where they can find me?
Oh my goodness. No, I just love everything that you just said, all those props. And hey, if anyone's going to throw the ball to a quarterback, the Philly special, baby, and Philadelphia's coming to town. Jim, I absolutely love those props. Those are hilarious. If an O lineman scores a touchdown, I will name my firstborn child after you.
Let's not do that.
You're that confident, eh?
Yeah, oh no, but nonetheless, hey, let's look this way. You can find me at Jim Coventry NFL on Twitter. Every day I'm doing a prop thread, breaking down one prop, giving you all the rationale behind it. So check that out. I'll be doing videos on Rotowire, YouTube throughout the week. You can catch me on social media at Jim Coventry NFL as well, and always on rotowire.com. It's been a pleasure this season, Connor.
Man, it's been a blast, buddy, and I can't wait to get back at it. And hopefully we can get some more content coming down the wire, whether it's breaking down the trade, some trades coming up in the NFL, some free agent signings, and of course, the Chicago Bears have the first overall pick in the NFL draft. And if you follow me on Twitter, you can already see my breakdown of what I think they're going to do with that first pick. It's like 10 tweets in the thread. It's pretty extensive, but the Bears, finally something to cheer about. One last time for Jim Coventry, I'm Connor Rowntree. Enjoy the Super Bowl.